We are live here at Ben Light Gymnasium as the Ithaca Bombers women's basketball team takes on the Bard College Raptors. Hello, everyone. I am Alex Tchiprout. Alongside me is Dean Gutik. And Dean, looking at this Bombers team, they have had a red-hot start to the year. They are currently sitting at 5-1 and are currently ranked 15th in the nation, and come into this game off of a win last night against Vassar College. Dean, how much confidence does this Bombers team have right now?
Well, thank you, Alex. The Bombers are 5-1 on the year after bouncing back from their loss against Scranton, a very good ranked Scranton team, by the way. Scranton ranked number 10 in the nation. The Bombers bounced back last night with a huge win over Vassar in the Liberty League. Bombers 5-1. They have that confidence early on.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime that you have confidence and have a huge winning record, it always helps to have that. And looking at this Bombers roster, they are a really, really experienced team with only 2 first-year players on their active roster. Dean, who are the experienced players on this Bombers team that have come back to this team and have continued to make an instant impact for this Bombers offense?
Well, the first person I'm going to have to say, Alex, is Cameron Coffey. Cameron Coffey is one of the best shooters in the Liberty League. Last year, she was one of the top shooters in terms of three-point shooting. Cameron Coffey had 16 points last night, so coming off a great game. And when Coffey has the hot hand, it is hard to stop her.
Rebounds are so important in basketball. One of my favorite aspects of looking at any game is obviously the rebound statistics, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Looking at this Bard team roster, they're a pretty overall well-balanced team. I mean, 7 players on this roster are freshmen and sophomore, and 7 players are juniors and seniors. Dean, who are the players that we need to keep an eye out for on this Bard Raptors team?
Well, the first player I'd like to point out, Alex, is Tyler Grandinetti. 14 points per game on the year in scoring. She's had a magnificent start to her season, and she leads this Bard team in scoring. So for the Bombers, the goal is to also try and contain her and not let her score, get those good-looking shots.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of the Bard Raptors offense runs through those 2 players, and so if the Bombers can do a good job of limiting those 2, they have a good shot of winning tonight. Speaking of shots to win tonight, what are the keys, Dean, for the Bombers in order to win this game and get another statement win onto their already impressive season start?
Ride with the hot hand. When your offense is rolling, especially last night, Cameron Coffey again, 16 points. When you see one of your players is with the hot hand, you go to the hot hand. You give the person, again, if Coffey's the hot hand, if Volpe's the hot hand, you feed it to her. You feed it to one of them.
For the Bombers, you know, you're going to be going up against good, talented players in Grandinetti and on this Bard team. You're just going to have to try and contain them, as you said, Dean. And I think if they can do a decent job of that tonight, I think they'll have a really good shot of winning. And for the Bard Raptors, what do they need to do in order to try and get an upset here against this number 15 ranked Bomber squad?
Play your style, your pace of basketball. Force the Bombers to make mistakes. Now, you might have a negative 21.5 scoring margin, excuse me. However, do not let that overshadow you. Do not overlook that. You need to catch the Bombers sleeping. And if the Bombers are going to underestimate you in this type of game.
So many times you see top-ranked teams, especially in the top 25 in national rankings, sort of underestimate some of their worst opponents, and you can see bad losses result from that may knock them out of the top 25. And so I think the Bombers are so important to just keep their focus on and try and just not underestimate this Bard squad. And so I think ultimately, how do you expect this game to play out, Dean? What is your predictions and what are your expectations for this game going in, looking at all the stats?
I'm going to have to go with the Bombers on this one, Alex. I think the Bombers are going to continue to roll to 6-1 on the season. I got the Bombers today. I'm going to say it is a 30-point win for the Bombers.
I mean, anytime you're playing any team, you cannot overlook them and be way too cocky. However, I do agree with you, Dean.
Any given day.
Absolutely. Any given day, as you were saying, any team can be beat, even the best in the world, and the Bombers are certainly one of the best in the country. That ranking shows it. As we get set to hand it off to Jeremy Goldstein and Max Adams for the call, both teams are looking for a crucial conference win today. Will the Raptors be able to upset the Bombers, or will the Bombers spoil the Raptors' bus ride home? It's Bard, it's Ithaca, it's next. We are back here live at Ben Light Gymnasium as the Clarkson Golden Knights are taking on the Union Dutch women. Currently, Clarkson has a 1-0 set advantage, winning the set 25-19 in the first set. Absolutely, you mentioned Paige, 100 sets played on the season. That is leading the team. McGrath will serve it, and now Galante swings it up. Freer takes a swing and is dug out. And now Paige will take a swing, dug out again by Clarkson. Crow sets up sets up Peacock and will find the back corner, and out is 15-11 Golden Knights.
Rough break. That was a tough ball, and Peacock just able to get the corner. You saw the dig by McGrath on one side. That shows how talented she is. She's an outside, but she's trusted to play in the back. She's so agile. She can get to a lot of balls.
Absolutely. 186 digs for McGrath as Baxter sends it over. And now, an unfortunate error, and it looks like Page could not quite dig that one out, and it'll be 16-11 Golden Knights.
Unfortunate overpass on the serve received by Union there, and it pretty much put it on a platter for the Golden Knights.
Baxter sends it over. Poole sets it up, and now Baxter could not quite dig it out, and now it is 16-12 Golden Knights.
Webster's been one of the better players for Union for sure, especially with everything she's done in the middle.
Webster will now serve. Baxter digs it up. Crow sets up Galante, who hits the net. And a costly error there will now bring it to a 3-point deficit.
We're seeing, more errors for Clarkson today, and in this set especially, Union's got to take advantage.
Webster serves, and now set up Crow. Trico will take a pushover, and McGrath forced to dive for it. Newcomer pushes it back over. Crow sets up now Galante, who takes a swing, and dug out by Union. LaFonte will push it over and will find the back corner, and now it is 16-14 Golden Knights, only a 2-point deficit now.
Dinesha LaFontaine, great awareness on the post, sends a free ball coming towards the table, and the Clarkson back, they don't know what to do. They didn't expect them to get to that ball. That's a 2-point set.
Webster will serve, and it's a service error, and it gives the point right back to Clarkson to bring it back to a 3-point deficit, 17-14.
That's going to be the kryptonite of any team who's trying to come back and rallying the service error. Those are brutal.
Absolutely. Now Abigail Spector will serve for the Golden Knights. Spector sends it over, dug out by McGrath. And now set up, McGrath will take a swing, and she could not quite get the totality of that ball, and it is now 18-14 Golden Knights.
Yeah, off the bottom of her hand there, Alex, and you're not going to get anything on the ball if that's the case.
Spector to serve again. Poole digs it up. And now set up for Newcomer, takes a swing, dug out by Baxter. Now Galante will push it over and will find the back corner, back line looked like 19-14 now Golden Knights.
That's a ball, if you're Kresh, you got to let McGrath come get there. It's high, it's really almost out of your reach, and McGrath was coming in the right direction. There's got to be better communication on that.
Spector, third straight serve, dug out by Poole, and now set up. McGrath could not quite, again off the bottom of her hand, and another error will now make it 20-14 Golden Knights, and Union forced to take another timeout. Now Spector will get play restarted here. Dug out by Poole, now set up. LaFontaine takes a swing, dug out, and now Crow has to push it over. Poole digs it out again. A swing by Newcomer and dug out. And now Trico will set up Galante, who takes a swing and finds the back corner. It is now 21-14 Golden Knights.
Galante does a great job. She's on that left side. She has a vertical swing all the way back to that corner. Makes it a 7-point advantage.
Another serve coming from Spector. Poole digs it out. Sets up Newcomer, pushes it over and finds the hole. Unfortunately, Spector could not quite get to it. 21-15.
Newcomer's now taking the lead in team kills with 6. McGrath still remaining at 5.
Absolutely. It is so big for the Dutchwoman to find kills from players other than McGrath.
The Newcomer again has been the beneficiary of a lot of opportunities and attempts in this set.
And now Fleming will serve for the Dutchwoman. And a service error from Fleming will make it 22-15. Clarkson only 3 points away from taking a 2-set advantage in this game.
When you're playing a team like the Golden Knights, these errors can't happen, and they've had at least 3 of them in this set, which is too crucial to occur.
Absolutely. And now Bergans will get it started for the Golden Knights. Dug out by Poole. Set up. Elgala takes a swing, and now it is set up for Newcomer, who takes a swing, and Spector could not quite dig it out, and they will call a violation there. And now Union will get the point, 22-16 now.
Yeah, I think we're seeing, McGrath has not succeeded a lot offensively this set, so we're seeing newcomer play a big role, but she's coming out now. You don't have Paige on the floor either. Where's the offense going to come from?
Douglas sets it up, and now Poole sets up LaFontaine, and unfortunately just wide right, and now it'll be 22-16 Golden Knights. 23.
She had the right idea, good opportunity to get the right sideline there, but she just sailed it a little too far.
Absolutely. And now Ashley Courier will serve for the Golden Knights. Courier serves it over, dug out by Douglas. Sets up McGrath, who bounces it off the top of the net, and unfortunately Clarkson cannot quite dig it out. 23-17 now.
Couple straight points for Union, so they're still in this, but again, I think it might be a little too late again.
Absolutely. Only 2 points needed from Clarkson to end this set. Poole will serve. Crow sets up Werdine, and Poole cannot quite dig it out, and now it is 24-17 set point for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, if Poole's going to get that ball, McGrath is to get out of her way. They're too close together for Poole to make a clean dig on that, and McGrath kind of stood flat-footed.
Isabel Crow now to serve for the Golden Knights. And now set up by Douglas. Webster will take a swing, and Bergans cannot quite dig it out. 24-18, still set point for the Golden Knights.
I know middles have to come in and out a little bit more than every other position, but Julia Webster is somebody that needs to be featured a little bit more. She's been really effective at the net, and Clarkson really hasn't had a consistent answer for her. I'd like to see her involved a little more.
Crush will serve for the Dutchwoman. Baxter digs it. Crow sets. Werdine swings. Dug out by Poole. Sets up McGrath. And dug out again by the Golden Knights. Sets up Freer, who takes a swing. Douglas now digs it up. And now sets up McGrath again, takes a swing, blocked. And now Page. And now back to McGrath, who has to push it over. And now Baxter will set up Page. Now will set up McGrath again, and finally gets the kill. And now it is 24-19. Union on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, Union got lucky because Baxter saved the ball at the beginning of that rally that would have gone out. But McGrath, after a long one, able to keep Union in it.
And now dug out. Werdine forced to push it over. And now sets up Webster, who takes a swing, and unfortunately Crow cannot quite dig it out. 24-21, or 20. We are back here at Ben Light Gymnasium as the Ithaca Bombers lead the Susquehanna Riverhawks 48-37 at halftime. And hello everyone, I am Alex Tchiprout. Alongside me is Alec Brown. And Alec, so far we have seen a dominating performance from Luka Radovic. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, Luka has been playing inside and outside this entire game. He's gone 3-6 from the three-point line, 6-9 from the field.
We talk about Luka Radovic, as we mentioned in the pregame show, one of the superstars of this Ithaca Bombers team. He has been absolutely dominating so far in this game. And who else have you seen from the Bombers that's really stepped up in this game so far?
For me, it has to be Wendell. He looks incredible out there.
You're talking about guys from all over the Bomber squad that are really been stepping up. A fairly spread out performance besides Luka Radovic so far through the Bombers. And for the Susquehanna Riverhawks, it has actually been quite the opposite. Howie Ranke Jr. has almost all of the Riverhawks scoring so far. And talk about how the Riverhawks can get back into this game.
Right now, you want to go through your team. You hope they can play better, but right now, it may just have to be go through Howie.
Howie Rankin has been absolutely dominant so far, but also I think one of the most important things is, as you were pointing out to me during the first half of this game, what kind of formations have these teams been running? I mean, you pointed out that there were some very, very interesting formations that both teams are running.
Well, right now I'm shocked. Ithaca's not doing too special on defense. They're just running a good man defense, and right now that has led to 7 turnovers for Susquehanna.
Look at the stat sheet for both of these teams, and it's very, very much one-sided. I mean, the Bombers dominating in almost every statistical category possible. What do the Susquehanna Riverhawks have to really do in that sort of stat sheet to sort of change the pace of this game?
What I'm looking at right now is the assists. Bombers have 14 assists compared to the Riverhawks 4.
One of my favorite aspects of basketball, it's just the game itself, is the rebounding, because I think it's such an underrated aspect of this game. However, I think it's such an important part. I think people oftentimes overlook the rebounding for the assist categories and the scoring categories, but oftentimes rebounding tells the full story of a game. And as you mentioned, Bombers are leading them by 6. However, one category in particular that I think is most important in terms of determining a game is offensive rebounds. Getting those second chance points can be so massive for a team, and the Bombers have done a great job of that, leading the Susquehanna Riverhawks, in that category, 6-2 in offensive rebounds. So they've done a great job of that. Alec, as one of our final thoughts here, who do you think really needs to step up for the Riverhawks? Who needs to step up to try and get them back in? For the Bombers, who needs to step up in order to keep this game right where it is?
I'd say for the Bombers, I'd love for Zach Warch to just keep hitting more threes. If you have someone that's 3 of 3, you have to let him shoot the ball, especially in the 2-3 zone.
Absolutely, and that is all the time that we have today. As we get set to hand it back over to Rocco DeMilo and Eli Fishman for the second half call, please stay tuned to the Ithaca Bombers leading currently 48-37 over the Susquehanna Riverhawks.
This is the Ithaca Football Podcast with your hosts, Dean Gutic, Alex Tchiprout, and Toby Zabore.
Alex, I'm going to lead off with you. You're the only one who picked Ithaca to win this game. So, the floor is yours, pal.
Let's go, Bomber Nation. It was an absolutely massive win for the Bombers. And, of course, I was the only one, as Dean mentioned, to pick the Ithaca Bombers over the Cortland Red Dragons. And I really thought, sitting there watching this game for about half this game, that I was actually going to exactly predict the score, because it really did look like it was going to end in a 27-24 victory. But a massive win. And like I've said last week, and like I think we've mentioned throughout the entire season, this team has a really uncanny ability to play up to challenges. It feels like every time that we doubt this team, even if we, will pick them to win in games, we always still say, against Hobart, against Union, against RPI, that we really thought that there was a chance that they were going to lose those games. And yet every single time that we doubt them, they come to play, and they absolutely deliver. And I truly do believe that this team's ability to play up to challenges and to play up to adversity, I really think is going to carry them super, super far going forward.
He could not get it going.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about the hype for Boyce. I mean, he had 2,500 yards coming into this Cortica game. We were expecting him to throw for at least 250 in this game and have a couple touchdowns and really limit the turnovers, because that's what we had seen from him throughout the entire season, looking at his stats and looking at how he plays. And so ultimately, I think, he didn't come to play in the passing atmosphere, but I think in terms of the rushing aspect, which we will get into a little bit later, as we have some very strong opinions about that, he ultimately finished with 107 yards on the ground, 15 attempts, longest run of 22 yards. So really, he was probably the most effective rusher out there, even though he's the quarterback. And that's not necessarily a recipe for success. And I think ultimately that is what cost Cortland the game, is that they could not get their passing attack going at all during this game. And ultimately, as we mentioned in last week's episode, in the preview of this game, we really thought that Cortland was going to be a pass-first offense. We really thought they were going to take their deep shots and really attack that secondary of the Ithaca Bombers, and they really didn't do that. Minus a couple of blown coverages and a couple drop passes, Ithaca's secondary really played well in this game.
I want to lead this off to you, Alex. You called it. You said AJ needed to play basically the perfect game, and he does that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I said in my prediction for this Cortica game in last week's episode, I said Wingfield had to have 250 yards and no interceptions. And that is exactly what he did. Ultimately, he did fumble the football on his one sack that the offensive line gave up. However, he was completely blindsided on that fumble. There was no way that he could have ever seen that player coming. So I give zero blame to AJ Wingfield for that. That was not his fault at all. That was just simply Cortland rushed 7 and the offensive line. Really, nobody could do anything about that. That was ultimately something to where, you'd like to have AJ hold on to the football, but that was a huge hit, and I don't see a way that he's holding on to that. But ultimately, something that surprised me about this game is that, yes, I said Wingfield needed to throw for 250 yards, and he ultimately ended up for throwing 18 of 20 for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. However, it never really looked like the Ithaca Bombers were dominant in one aspect of this game. It really felt like this was a well-rounded game, but it also felt like there was nothing that really stands out to you on the stat sheet. It felt like sort of just a solid performance, but there was nothing super splashy about it. Going beyond just what coaches do in terms of game plan, in terms of scheme, it's also just a mentality thing. You have to think that over the past couple of years, the Ithaca Bombers have always been expected to win a Liberty League title, to go into the NCAA tournament, to play well in it, and they've fallen short the past couple seasons. And I truly do believe that that's partly due to the culture that they were in, because The roster, in terms of just on paper talent, there's nothing against this Ithaca Bombers team of this year, I want to make that clear, is that last year the roster talent in terms of on paper was far superior in several aspects compared to this year's team. However, I truly believe that the difference in why this team is defying odds, even though that they are overall probably on roster talent on paper worse than what previous teams have been, is because of culture. Coach Turper and Coach Warner and Coach Reeder have all established a culture of winning in this team. And we have seen not a single time and not a single game a lapse of concentration from this team. And that's oftentimes something that you can see, especially in winning teams going down the stretch. You can see them start to lose focus, start to play down to their opponents. It's actually the exact opposite. I truly believe that Coach Turper has instilled a culture of playing up to challenges in this team, because this team, no matter who they faced, no matter how bad or how good they have been, they have always played to their best, and they have always played really solidly for the entire 60 minutes. There's never been one time during the season where I truly thought, okay, this team has sort of given up on the game, or they've sort of like just let their opponent, come back or play down to them. This team has always played up to their opponents and always played up to challenges, and there have been some this season. And so I really think that's a credit to Coach Turper and the culture that he has created, and especially it's amazing to see in his first season as a head coach. Absolutely, he was a huge star of the game, but my star of the game, I have to go with the man, AJ Wingfield. I said that he needed to have a massive game last week in order for the Bombers to win in Corsica, and he absolutely delivered. 18 of 20, 209 yards, three touchdowns, a long pass of 40 yards to Julian Dumaga, who we haven't even mentioned this, but by the way, the catch that Julian Dumaga made on that 40-yard reception was top number 8 on SportsCenter top plays. And so
Cortland got mossed.
Cortland got mossed. And if you have not seen the clip of Dumaga's catch, please go look it up. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or on ESPN. It is circulating around, and it is absolutely unbelievable. He mossed a Cortland defender to reach over and get that pass from Wingfield. But Wingfield played absolutely perfectly, only that one sack, and ultimately, the fact remains that he played clean with no interceptions. I think was more impressive and more important than any sort of yardage total or touchdown total that Wingfield put up. And so kudos to him, and a shout out to him for being a friend of the podcast and for coming on earlier this year doing that interview with us. For my defense player of the week, I'm going to have to go with an underrated guy who I mentioned earlier in this podcast, Tommy Moran. He ultimately stepped up huge in this game. Ultimately, the stat line only for him is 1 total tackle, 1 pass breakup, but ultimately, he had such a great impact on the secondary, and just being able to play well and lock down receivers like Burgess and Lapp and playing a really solid game overall was huge for the Ithaca Bombers, and I think he is such an underrated piece of why the Bombers won this football game. And so for my defense player of the week, I'm going Tommy Moran. Underrated dude, but a huge performance and just a great job locking up Lapp and Burgess this week.